In class, we discussed how the Magnus force can change the trajectory of a spinning object. The impact of Magnus force can be seen in many sports, including softball. Under the influence of Magnus force, softball pitchers can put different rotations on their pitches, which can cause the pitch to curve, drop, and rise while it's in the air. One example is a curveball. When a right-handed pitcher throws a curveball, the ball will curve to the left. This is due to putting a rotation on the ball that is counterclockwise. This curve on the pitch can be explained by the Magnus force. When looking at the ball from above, the right side of the ball is spinning in the opposite direction of the air, while the left side of the ball is spinning in the same direction as the air. This causes the air on the right side of the ball to move at a lower velocity compared to the left side of the ball, leading to a higher pressure on the right side compared to the left. Air always tries to move from high pressure to low pressure. Air on the right side of the ball will try to move to the left side, causing the ball to curve to the left. A screwball is very similar to a curveball, except for the rotation on the ball. A right-handed pitcher will throw a screwball that curves to the right. A screwball will rotate clockwise. This causes the air on the right side of the ball to travel in the same direction as the ball is spinning, and the air travels in the opposite direction on the left side of the ball. This leads to lower pressure and higher velocity air on the right side of the ball, and higher pressure and lower velocity air on the left side of the ball. Air on the left side at a higher pressure will try to move to the lower pressure, which is on the right side, causing the ball to curve to the right. Another example of a pitch that's movement can be explained by Magnus force is a drop ball. When a pitcher throws a drop ball, the ball will sink towards the ground as it gets closer to the catcher. There is topspin put on the ball that causes the top of the ball to spin in the opposite direction of the air, while the bottom of the ball spins in the same direction as the air. This leads to the air above the ball moving at a lower velocity and higher pressure. On the other hand, the air below the ball travels at a higher velocity and lower pressure. Since the air will move from high to low pressure, the air above the ball will push the ball down as it tries to move downward towards the low pressure, causing the ball to drop. The final example is a rise ball, which is very similar to a drop ball, except it rises as it gets closer to the catcher instead of sinking. This is due to the pitcher putting backspin on the ball. The air above the ball will be at a lower pressure and a higher velocity because it is traveling in the same direction as the top of the ball, whereas the air below the ball will be at a higher pressure and lower velocity because it is traveling in the opposite direction as the bottom of the ball. The higher pressure air below the ball tries to move to the lower pressure air above the ball, which causes the ball to rise during its flight. Throwing underhand pitches with various spins under the effects of Magnus force and mechanics can lead to injury. Common injuries among softball pitchers include injuries of the rotator cuff, biceps muscle, shoulder and wrist, tendinitis, and back and neck pain. There are various explanations for these injuries based on the biomechanics of windmill pitching in softball. Pitching a softball puts high force and torque on the biceps muscle as the pitcher goes through the motion. Compared to baseball pitching, which is done throwing overhand, windmill pitching leads to more force put on the biceps muscle, even when the balls are thrown at the same velocity. This increased force while windmill pitching can lead to a greater stress put on the biceps muscle compared to overhand pitching. The maximum force put on the biceps tendon during a windmill pitch occurs when the arm is rotating from the 9 o'clock position to the 6 o'clock position. Based on what we learned in lecture, putting increased stress on the biceps muscle and tendon could ultimately lead to putting the ultimate stress on the tendon, leading to a failure of the tendon and potentially tearing or further damage to the tendon. Some of the common causes of shoulder injuries from windmill pitching are due to putting extra stress on the shoulder and biceps tendon. These causes include, and are not limited to, overuse, poor mechanics, and lack of follow-through. First, we will focus on overuse. Overuse puts extra stress on the shoulder joint, which can lead to injury. There are many signs of overuse injuries that can be seen or easily detected in pitchers. Symptoms include pain, fatigue, decreased performance, a change in pitching mechanics, and loss of velocity or control of the pitch. Overuse can also lead to muscle fatigue, causing poor pitching mechanics. Poor mechanics is another cause for common injury. Poor mechanics can put extra stress on different muscles that are not meant to be used in pitching, which can lead to the injury. One example of poor pitching mechanics is a lack of follow-through. Lack of follow-through means stopping the arm before it finishes the follow-through, and this is a common cause of elbow and forearm injuries, commonly tendinitis. There are also many ways to help prevent injuries. One way is to make sure pitchers take proper rests between games and practices to help keep from overusing their muscles. Another way to prevent injury is to ensure that pitchers are pitching with proper mechanics. This helps to keep muscles that aren't meant to be used for pitching from dealing with too much stress. A final way to help prevent injury is to make sure pitchers are properly stretching. Based on what we learned in lecture, chronic stretching will not reduce injury risk, but it can help to increase strength. Stretching can also help a tissue become more efficient by decreasing the hysteresis. Increasing efficiency can help keep a muscle from fatiguing. Doing both resistance training and stretching can not only increase tendon stiffness, but can also increase efficiency. Based on lecture, a greater stiffness can help increase the stability of a joint as you load it at higher velocities. Now that we have explained how Magnus force influences the path of the ball and how to prevent pitching injuries, it is your turn to try different pitches and see it for yourself.